Welcome to the Hard Truth Podcast. This is Jeremy Fouts, and today we have another guest out of Michigan that we are going to be talking again about the love for outdoors. And we have Jesse Anderson that is going to be with us today. Digital creator, hunter, angler, adventurer, and owner of Grizz Media and Grizz Hunt. And he's going to explain to us, what the really the meaning is from both of those perspectives. And I tell you, today we're going to be talking about train and prepare. A lot of people, Jesse, they want to go out into the woods and they want to harvest a large animal, but they don't want to put in the work. And today we're going to be talking about a lot about that. And then I know you was telling me before we got started some crazy stories that we're going to dive into, because I think a lot of people don't understand. Yes, it's important to harvest game, but it's the whole experience of enjoying the outdoors. That's why I love having, professional hunters and fishermen on. Is a lot of people are missing out on what the outdoors can bring from them from a joy perspective, a fulfillment perspective. And not only are you've mastered that from a hunting and fishing perspective, but you've also mastered that from a digital creation perspective. And I cannot wait. I know I'm going to be sending you some products today to be able to get some digital creation of the products in the outdoors, because that's what it's really truly about. So it's an honor and a privilege to have you on the Hard Truth Podcast, Jesse. I want to know, first off, in the audience, I know they want to know a little bit more background about you. How did you fall into, this passion for the outdoors and the digital creation? And, give us a little bit of what has led you in this direction in your life.
Let's go. What
Well, man, appreciate you bringing me on. It's such a long story of how I got into it, but to cut it down real short, basically, I give it to my dad. My dad got me into bass fishing and pike fishing when I was about 4 years old. And ever since then, it was just, I was addicted to it. I was addicted to fishing my whole life. Even through high school, I started to quit sports and I didn't go to parties and I didn't hang out with friends anymore because I was just fishing. That's all I did. I was so addicted to it. It was just, it felt like it was something I was supposed to be doing. It made me happy, made me fulfilled. So that's all I could ever do. And then it became, little after that, I would say I was about 14 or 15, where I started to get the itch for hunting. My dad gave me his old Fred Bear recurve bow, wooden
Oh yeah.
bow. He never hunted with it, other than like rabbits and small game, because it was maybe a 30, 35 pound bow. But he just loved to shoot with it. He gave that to me, and I just immediately picked that up, addictive personality, and fell in love with that, where I was shooting squirrels, rabbits, birds off my mom's bird feeder. And I even remember shooting those big bumblebees off flowers in our backyards. I'd be like 5 yards away, just waiting for them to land and shooting at those. And I just got addicted to that kind of that chase of chasing after something new. So whether it was fishing or hunting, it just both felt right. And then I slowly transitioned where my huge goal was to fish professionally for bass fishing tournaments. In about senior year through my first couple years of college, I was actually starting to do it. I dropped out of college to kind of pursue it, and it was a huge risk. But I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm just going to use all the discipline I can possibly work up and just make it happen, and not have any kind of backup plan. Let's just do it. So I dropped out of school. I quit my job and just started fishing tournaments as much as I possibly could. And I wouldn't say I was any crazy professional, but I was doing it for a living. So technically profession. I was getting paid by
Yes.
sponsors. I was winning some tournaments here and there. So I was getting by. I was paying my bills. As a 21-year-old kid, I didn't have a whole lot of bills, but I was able to get by and buy my dream boat by the time I was about 20 years old, which was a Nitro Z9. It was like my dream boat for 10 years, and finally got it. And then I kind of led over to working with a media company after doing so much content for basically all the sponsors. They're like, hey, we need photos, videos of these products. I'm like, I don't know anything about that stuff. I'm a fisherman. That's all I know. So I just kind of bought a camera, just kind of learned as I went, took photos, and a bunch of brands are coming to me like, hey, man, we like your photos. Let's get some more content out of it. So I got hired by a media company who kind of recognized me doing that. And I'm like, all right, cool. I can still fish tournaments, do stuff in the outdoor industry and content, make money out of it. So I moved to Missouri for a little bit doing that. And then I quit that job because basically I didn't feel right working a 9 to 5 kind of thing, even though it was still in the same industry that I enjoyed. It just felt like I was doing all this work, working so hard, And I mean, I would go to the office, work 9 to 5, and then go home and do the same work until dark and then go to bed. But it just didn't feel like I was growing my own life. It just felt like I was getting a paycheck every month. And I didn't like that.
Right.
So I basically burned all the boats that I had. Everything started from scratch. I moved back to Michigan and started what now is Grizz Media, a marketing media agency. And we just kind of started doing everything we could. I started with logos and photos, and I had no idea how to do any of that. I just kept learning as I went. So I just kind of picked it up as I kind of went along. And then 8 years later, here we are. Well, it was 6 years. It was 2018 when I started that, and just kind of ran with it. And because I finally was able to do this for a living, I was able to get back into hunting as well. And it was just like purely fishing for so long. And I loved hunting, but I never really got to do it because of tournament season and all this content I was doing. So I kind of switched over to a little bit more hunting content, saw some growth in that, more brands wanting to work with me. And then I almost did a 180 from like primarily fishing to primarily hunting. And now it's like 95 to 5% between hunting and fishing. And I still love to fish. It's just not the brands I work with. I just tend to work with more hunting brands. I have nothing against the fishing brands. It's just who I work with. So I kind of just went all into the hunting industry. And then once I was doing that for a while, I was filming for some TV shows. I was filming for the Pursuit channel. I was producing 2 TV shows on there, and just kind of got thrown in the deep end of traveling all over the world, filming for this show that I never really did filming. I was mostly photos and then editing. And I just kind of learned as I went. And I was just like, man, I love this. But then I also got away from doing more of the hunting myself. I wasn't the one with the bow or the tag in my pocket as much. It was generally just the camera. And I love creating. I love making something turn out to just be incredible. I love to get the fans and the people who are watching it, just like that feeling that they can sense what was going on, the emotions out of it. I love doing that. And that's why I love photojournalism so much. But I just always had the itch to have that pocket of my own tag, or that own tag in my pocket. So I kind of try to transition that with my business and with Grizz Hunt to start being the hunter again in creating content with Grizz Media of our own personal hunts, and then using that to create media for the brands that we worked with. So instead of just going out and freelance filming for all these people, I was like, how could I be the hunter and get these products still and create stuff with it? So I started a team with Grizz Media, and then we started Grizz Hunt, where we can do our own personal stuff, and just kind of went from there. So I guess the ultimate goal is to basically continue hunting for a living and keep growing and experiencing as much as I possibly can. And I look at it as not how many animals I've killed or how big of the elk I killed in, 500-inch elk or whatever. I'm not looking for that huge one or whatever it is. I'm looking to build what I call the hunter's resume. I just want to build this massive resume where if somebody like you invites me on and they ask me these questions, I have experience from all over the world with different species and these different crazy stories that happen. So someday I can, pass those along to somebody and teach them something, or see this incredible content that came from it. So I just look at it as I'm trying to build this huge resume for my life, instead of just like work this normal 9 to 5 job or whatever it is. I just want to have this massive, huge book, encyclopedia sized book of like a hunter's resume. So that's kind of the basis of it. Long story short, crammed into that, but that's where it all
Yeah, you
started.
did an awesome job, Jesse. And when I name, I know I own a nutrition company, and when I named the company, I named it Core Vive, and the reason I name it Core Vive is taking care of the core first and foremost. But Vive in French means living life, and you are definitely an example of someone that was not scared to take a risk and live life. And what you've created here is phenomenal. And for you being a young person that said, I didn't really know what I was doing, but I'm going to figure it out. And that's pretty impressive for someone your age to not be worried about failure, not be worried about fear of what other people think, but says, I'm going to go live my life. I'm going to go create the life that I want. And you have actually done that. Talking about your resume and some of the animals that you have been able to harvest, give us an example of some of those animals that you've harvested. And I know, you might not want to list all of them, but what's been some of your most memorable harvesting animals that you've taken?
Uh, there's been a couple, but I would say that the few that come off the top of my head is one, the sable, the African sable. They call it the African prince. It's the Prince of Africa.
Yes.
They're just the most gorgeous, majestic animals. And
Yes.
I remember, I couldn't tell you how old I was, but I was just scrolling through a magazine of hunting, and it was always elk, moose, whitetail, caribou. And I saw this animal. I'm like, there's no way that's real. It looked like a mythical creature. And I'm just like, that is so cool. And my favorite color is black. So to see this like jet black animal with these huge black horns, it was just so epic looking. And I'm like, if that's real, I got to hunt that Sunday. And I would say I was probably 12, 13 years old. And when I was 25, 2 years ago, was when I finally got to do that. And I killed a big sable in South Africa. I was there for about a month, and I killed it on day 3. And I just like, it was the second animal I ever killed in Africa, but it felt so surreal that like after all that time, like 3 days into my trip to Africa for my first time, I got to kill my dream animal. And it was just such a surreal moment. I remember walking up on that, and I still had the shakes and that jittery feeling, but it was different than like when it happens to me with a whitetail, because I still get that if I shoot, a 100-inch whitetail. It's still just adrenaline. But when I walked up onto that sable, it didn't feel real. Everything felt like it was a dream. It was like fake, not happening. And I'm like, when am I going to wake up here? This is just insane. So that was a real surreal moment for me. That really, I don't want to say it gave me more of an addiction, because I don't know if that was possible, but it really told me in my mind, like, this is what I want to do. I want to keep pursuing different animals, and not because of the animal, because of the experience. Because I'm in a completely different place, in a different area I've never been. I mean, it's a completely different world in Africa, and it just felt so different. I'm like, I want to keep experiencing these new life experiences and journeys all over the world. Whether it's like, I really want to go get a water buffalo in Australia, and not just because of the water buffalo, because I would love to experience Australia and the hunt and the journey through that to get the animal. I mean, the animal is just the bonus, but that's when I realized, I'm like, this is what I want to do. I love whitetail hunting. It's what I grew up doing, but I love just experiencing and traveling. And like I said, building that hunter's resume. I just want to keep doing that. So the sable was huge for me. And then, go ahead.
I was going to tell you, one of my bucket lists is, and maybe you and I can go together, is New Zealand red stag. That's something I've always wanted to do. And talking about the jitters, or the shakes right before you harvest something. I've got a 17-year-old son, and ever since he was 4, when he killed his first whitetail, before he shoots, instead of the shakes, he gets the giggles. He gets the like kind of giggling. That's kind of his thing. To this day, at 17-year-old, if we're hog hunting at night, if we're shooting bear, elk, whatever, when he gets the giggles, I know he's ready to pull the trigger. But didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead and tell me
No,
some of
you're
the other
good.
animals you harvested. Yeah.
I love that. That means he's just already ready. Like he's already excited to kill this animal. That's cool. That's sweet.
But what was you about to say? Some of the other animals you harvested?
I was going to say next one is my kudu, and almost for the exact same reason. I saw that kudu, and a kudu is basically everybody's African dream animal. And it was the same thing. I saw this kudu, this giant animal. And I looked at the greater kudu as like the African elk. It was like the same size, kind of the same build. And it's like what people go for there. I'm like, I got to get myself a kudu. And I never thought that would happen. The next year, last year, I got my kudu, and it took 30 days of being in Africa. And on the 30th day, on the last evening, as the sun was going down, I got an opportunity at my kudu, and I harvested a beautiful one. And it was another one of those moments. It was just surreal. It took 30 days, and it was a miserable trip. I mean, it was fun, but it was a really rough trip. I got hospitalized. I slit my leg open really bad, and I just stuck it out, wanted to keep doing it. And on the 30th day, it all paid off, where I got that kudu. So not even just like the fact that was a dream animal of mine for so long. It's everything that happened and took place before that 30th day on that kudu was just like, wow, it was worth it. I pulled through for 30 days of misery. And then on that last day, the day before my flight, I got it. And I was just like, it was meant to be. Because I had one more little window, and it happened. I'm like, what are the odds? So it just really it was just another surreal moment for me. I mean, I've killed some cool animals, but like those moments just had such a powerful meaning to me that's why I picked those as like really, really important to me. And I've killed nice deer. I've killed cool animals like the aoudad in Texas. That was an amazing hunt, super fun. Can't wait to do that again. But those two just really stuck out to me, at least for my own personal hunts. I've been on hunts with the TV show I was producing for that were just unbelievable. that I'll never forget. But the hunts that I went on, those two really stand out to me for that exact reason,
Yeah.
for like the journey that I went in to get to there.
Yeah, that's why I love Jesse, the hunting and outdoors is, spending 30 days and, a lot of times you're doubting and did I do this for nothing? Am I going to successful get a successful tag here? And, and that's why I love hunting though, is because it's the same way with life, right? And owning a business or anything. And a lot of times you put in so much work, and a lot of times it's easy to doubt yourself of like, is this worth it? And then you accomplish that goal and you're like, man, why was I doubting myself? I mean, number one, if I didn't tag anything, I have all these experiences, I've learned so much during this adventure. But when you tag something, you're like, man, this has definitely been worth it. That's why I love the outdoors so much, man. I
Yeah.
know you got addicted to it at a young age, so
There.
I mean, you're definitely in for life now.
Oh, there's no doubt. It's so funny that you mentioned exactly what you just mentioned. I literally just made a post this morning on my Instagram of almost exactly what you said. The post was something like every time I go hunting and something like this in this moment, I'm remembered why I do it and why I work 24/7. I work 7 days a week. And with owning your own business, it's not 9 to 5. You go home and do whatever you want. It's your business, it's your baby, it's your lifestyle. And it's become my
Yep.
lifestyle. So everything I do is just revolved around my brand and the things that I do. So that post was kind of talking about like moments like this. I was packing out the Aoudad, really remembered and reminded myself of why I do this, why I work so hard. Because even though you're like, oh, I'm wasting my time, it's not going anywhere, it's not growing, this is never going to happen for me. And you have those thoughts constantly in your head. You have those slight little moments, like when I got that Aoudad or my kudu or sable, and you go, that's why. Even though that might have been a 1 day hunt in Africa, and that sable was 1 day, or even the hunt itself was maybe 2 hours, you remember like years worth of work. It paid off
Yeah.
for that one moment, which was more important than all those times of you doubting yourself and hating on it and thinking it's going to fail. It's all worth it at the end.
Yeah, and that's why I love your content so much, Jesse. You tell everyone the truth. I mean, it's easy for me to find, professional hunters and fishermen on Instagram, and usually it's only about them posting this big fish, this big animal, and they don't tell the story. I mean, I think you have mastered telling the story and talking about the train and preparation. One of the posts that you did, I think he was on another podcast. You was talking about, don't feel sorry for yourself if you don't have the money to pay $10,000 for an elk tag in Wyoming. Just work harder. Work harder with the resources that you have. Don't expect to climb in a tree stand and harvest something large without putting in the work. And you've done a phenomenal job of teaching everyone that if you want to be successful in anything, owning a business like you, like me, if you want to be successful at hunting and fishing, it takes a lot of training and preparation.
No, it takes everything. If you really want it to do well, it takes everything out of you. And that's like
Yeah.
what I mentioned earlier. Like I use that quote quite a bit, burned boats. And I burnt
Yeah.
everything. I dropped everything for this. And everybody was like, you're dropping out of school, you're quitting your job, you're moving across country, place you don't even know, don't know anybody. It's like, yeah, should I have a backup plan? Maybe. And I just looked at it as I'm like, if I have a backup plan, it's going to give me too easy of a way out. It's going to give me an excuse to
Yeah.
quit. It's going to give me a reason to stop and not work as hard. And I didn't have a backup plan. I didn't have a
Yeah.
job to come back to. I didn't have an idea. I didn't have, anything. So it was just like, I'm dropping all of this and I'm just going to use every ounce of discipline that I gain and earn to make this happen. No matter what it takes, it's going to happen. So that's
Yeah.
basically what I did. And almost every moment, I didn't think it was going to work. Every moment, I thought I was going to fail, or sometimes I still had that thought. But
Oh
you just
yeah.
keep going, and then you have those moments where you're like, it's paying off. Now I
Yep.
remember why I'm doing it. So it's all worth it if you got to stay so focused on it. And that's why, like, I don't tell people not to have a backup plan, because that's not always the greatest idea. It depends on what your situation is. But if you do have a backup plan that you're so set on, you have plan B, plan C, plan D, it's going to give you an excuse and a reason to be able to go, oh, plan A didn't work. That's okay. I have plan B. I have plan C. I have something to fall back onto. But when you don't have a plan B, C, or D, you have to put everything you have into it. You're not going to bed until that work is done, or until you've succeeded at whatever that you're working on. There is no way out. You have to do it. So, and sometimes it doesn't work. Just because you have no way out doesn't mean it's going to work and you're going to gain this insane motivation. But it gives you a reason to really, really work for it. And that's basically what I did, not on purpose necessarily, but I just knew that like I wasn't going to give up. Nothing was going to stop me. And I was just going to make it happen no matter what it was. And it
Yeah.
took a while, but it
Yeah.
happened. And I'm still nowhere near where I want to be or where I want my business is and all the plans I have. I'm nowhere compared to where I want to be, but placing one brick at a time to build that house to eventually where I want to be.
Well, you've off to a fast start for a young man, Jesse. Congratulations on everything you've done. I know I've got to ask this question. I was an outfitter in Colorado for several years, still actually have my outfitting license in Colorado. And for me, again, it goes back to not the largest animal I killed, but what I love about the outdoor is the experiences. What really makes your hair stand up about those different experiences. I'll never forget one time I harvested a bear around 2 o'clock in the afternoon in what they call Hell's Hole, all by myself. And there was three other bears that was waiting for this gut pile that I had no sidearm on me. I was dumb. I was not paying attention to. And then I had to harvest or I had to gut this bear while watching over my shoulder with bears up a tree right beside me. Thinking, I literally took a stick trying to get them away when they would come down the tree, and that was a scary little bit of a moment there. But I know you have probably had to have encountered something like that, a story in the wild that you're thinking, man, at the time I'm thinking, am I going to die here? And you probably have had these situations too. But the other side of you're thinking, if I have to die, this is a good way to die because, man, this is pretty badass.
Yeah, that was one of those moments where I got charged by that brown bear in Cold Bay. I'm like, there wasn't even a thought of fear in my head yet because it was coming at me so quick, and it's just like I didn't even process fear. It was just like, well, we're gonna we're either survive this or not. And the one thought that did come to my head, I'm like, at least it's a cool way to go out for Grizz Media, Grizz
Yeah.
Hunt to get killed by a grizzly bear. I'm like, it would just work with my brand. I'm like, at least I'd go
Yeah.
out the right way. But yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
it's kind of like those artists are worth more after they're dead. You're
yeah,
thinking, hey, this brand will live forever now.
if it happened, people were like, now I see where the name came from. They're like, I get it
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
So there's been a lot of those moments, but like you mentioned, it's not what you harvested or how the hunt happened. It's everything that you learned and earned and everything that went through to make that happen. I look at it as like, so let's imagine you go to Colorado every year to elk hunt. On your first time ever, day one, you killed a small bull and you're like, success, I made it happen. Cool. Let's go home. I got my bull. But let's say every year you went and you didn't kill a bull, but you learned so much and experienced so many cool stories from each year. And then 4 or 5 years later, all that experience and knowledge that you earned because you didn't kill on the first day allowed you to gain these skills and abilities where you killed a 400-inch monster bull that most people never get to experience or have that opportunity. And that was because you learned so much and you gained so much out of those experiences instead of just like, oh, killed my bull, let's go home next year. And you just got lucky. I think a lot of times luck is not good for all the time. I think, earning that bull in the later on, 4 or 5 years later, like I mentioned, is much more important because you've learned so much and now you're becoming a better hunter instead of just a
Oh yeah.
successful hunter. I think a successful hunter and a good hunter are two completely different things. I think a lot of luck
Absolutely.
can play into be a successful hunter, but to be a good and a I don't know what another good word I want to use for, but a hunter that can continue to be, I don't want to use the word success again because I'm kind of going against it, but a hunter that can always learn and experience and get better and better and better as they go from that knowledge that they gained, I think is way more important than just tagging that bull and just getting out of there. I think every little experience you earn on every hunt is way more important. So, like you mentioned before, I just think that the hunt itself is more important than the harvest. The harvest is great, and obviously it makes your time and money worth it, and it brings you back to those moments where you're like, this is why I do it. But I think everything that goes in between it is much more important.
Absolutely. That's what gets you ready for the next season. I can tell you so many different hunts, Jesse, that maybe I turned down an animal, or I was not, or maybe I pushed an animal too close, where I should have backed up, especially bow hunting, and all these different things. But you're 100% right. Even though I might not have harvested then, the next time I was put in that situation, then I was able to be successful. I learned from what I did wrong, the previous year, the previous hunt. And that's why I love it. That's why I love the outdoors and the experience so much. It aligns a lot with business and being successful in business, and anything you're doing in life. Even if I didn't harvest anything, what did I learn from this? And that's why one of the things I started doing a long time ago, and I'm sure you do the same, is I keep a journal of everything. Every night after every hunt, I write the temperature, the lows, the highs, the moon phase, what I feel like I did wrong, what I could have done better, climb to the next ridge, all those different things, because you're exactly right. It's not just about did I tag that time, it's what did I learn to get me in a better situation for the next time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. And the
I,
same
I,
thing
I
with,
know you probably got a couple other stories that you probably want to tell. Maybe you don't, but I know as many times as you spent in the woods, you've probably had another close encounter. Anything else that comes to mind that you'd like to share a pretty powerful story? Maybe one you've shared before, maybe one you haven't.
I've got a bunch of cool wildlife experiences and some close encounters with elephants, hippos, leopards, all kinds of cool stuff. But one that was very recent, and I've never spoke about it. I've never posted it yet. I didn't really know how to post it. It's I filmed some of the after uh, moments of my thoughts and feelings after it, but I hadn't spoke about it at all. And it was this summer. It was early August, or wait, no, it was late July actually. It was my uncle and cousin and I. We took how far is that boat ride? Well, from northern Michigan, the Upper Peninsula, to Isle Royal, which is a massive island on the middle of Lake Superior. And we took the boat all the way across Lake Superior, and we also had issues with the boat. Broke down like halfway through, and we're like, oh great, we're stranded on Lake Superior, which is nicknamed Lake Gitchagumi because it's such a dangerous lake. It means dark water. It's just or big water. It was just a really cool story of even getting to the island, and then I think it was actually night one. Night one, after fishing all day, it was hot. It was like 80 degrees. We're sweaty. We're warm. We're on this little peninsula, maybe 30 yards wide and a couple hundred yards long, where we have a little camp set up at the end of it. So it's like 10 o'clock at night. I'm like, all right, I'm going to go wash off. I'm sweaty. I'm sticky. I got bug spray on because the mosquitoes were horrid. And I walked down to the end of the peninsula where the boat was kind of anchored up on the bank. I'm like, all right, I'm just going to walk in the water. I had my Crocs, my underwear. I threw on my clothes on the picnic table that was right there. I'm like, I'm going to walk in. I'm just rinsing off whatever. And I just had this weird feeling. I'm like, I just had this feeling something's watching me. And I heard wolves earlier this night howling at each other. And it's an island very well known for wolves and moose. And that's basically all that's on the island. There's no raccoons. There's no coyotes. There's no deer. There's moose and wolves. And that's basically it, which is just a really weird thing that don't know how it happened. It's really unexplained. But there's apparently like a pack of 40 to 50 wolves. I believe it's more. And it's a massive island. Like the chances of seeing them are very, very slim. But I'm in the water and I'm like, God, I just have a weird feeling something's staring at me. Maybe a moose, maybe a wolf up on these big peninsulas a long ways away from me. I'm like, man, I'm the only one out here. It's completely dark and I'm by myself. Well, I get out of the water. I'm just getting eaten alive by mosquitoes. So I'm like, all right, I got to get out of here. They're just swarming me. So I go up maybe 8 feet from the bank and I grab my towel that I have sitting there. And I have my phone. I have a pocket knife that was in my pocket from fishing, my clothes, whatever. And I'm starting to throw the towel on me and just kind of like dry off to get ready to change and walk back. Well, as I'm doing this, I look up and no joke, 10 yards from me, maybe 12 yards, there's a big gray wolf standing there right on the end of the peninsula. So
Golly.
basically, trapped me there because I'm on the end of it and he's like in the middle of the peninsula and he's just staring at me. He's facing away and he's just looking over his shoulder. Not aggressive, not facing me, just kind of staring at me. And the first moment or the first thought in my head, I'm like, oh, there's a big dog on the island. And then I'm like, we're on a remote island. There's no other people, just us, and dogs aren't even allowed on this island. And then I'm like, okay, this thing's like 130 pounds. It's about yay tall. It's all gray, no collar. And this all happened within like 4 seconds. It's just like instant thought. And then I'm like, oh, that's a wolf. And the fear didn't kick in until after it kind of walked away. And I'm just like, oh, shoot, there's a wolf standing right there. I'm completely alone, vulnerable. I have my phone, a pocket knife, and I'm basically in Crocs and underwear, and that's it. So I'm like super vulnerable. I'm like, oh gosh, what am I going to do here? So I grab my phone, I turn the flashlight on, and I start hitting record.
and I pull up, and the wolf is just slowly walking away into the woods. Like he didn't care. He wasn't really spooked. He was just kind of like, I'm going to go on my way now. And me and this wolf had eye contact for about 5 seconds of just completely calm peace. We're just staring at each other like nothing going on. And then I'm like, okay, that's a wolf. So I grab my phone and I basically use it for my flashlight, but I'm like, I got to get this on video. And I pull it up. Unfortunately, I didn't get any of it on footage until it's already in the brush. So it turns into the brush, and I'm just like, okay, now I'm starting to get scared. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's a wolf here. And I have to walk right towards the wolf. I have nowhere else to go. It's the only way off the little peninsula where I'm at to get to my camp is a 30-yard wide trail through the woods to get to my camp. And I'm like, I have to walk right by this thing. So I'm like, okay, I grab my phone and I filmed this whole thing. I'll eventually post it of me walking through the woods with my flashlight, like looking in every corner, like, where is this thing? But I do have a small clip where I walked right into where that wolf walked in, and it's right on the water. And I just lean into the brush with my phone, like, where is this thing? And you can just see his eyes, like 15 yards away, just glowing at my lens, and then just move behind a tree. And I'm just like, oh gosh. That's when it really set in. I'm like, there's a wolf, like, basically stalking me at night. And still to this day, I have no idea why that wolf was just chilling down there. I'm thinking maybe he was going to investigate the splashing in the water of me rinsing off, which just made me realize that this thing was basically coming in to hunt me or look for me. I don't think a wolf would ever attack by itself. I think it would have to be in a big pack and extremely, extremely hungry. I don't think this wolf was aggressive or was ever going to attack me. It was still a very eerie feeling. But I think he was just kind of investigating, like, all right, I'm hearing some splashing down by the water. Maybe it's a wounded animal. Let me check it out. And he saw me. He's like, all right, it's a human, or this isn't what I was trying to feed on, and just kind of walked away. But still to this day, it just makes me wonder why that wolf was down there. And I was in the water for maybe 5 minutes. So I walked down this trail, got in the water for 5 minutes, and the wolf was already there. So he must have been not that far behind me walking
Right.
through.
Yeah, he smelled you and was coming to see who you are and what
Yeah.
you're doing there.
So it was just like such a surreal moment. And I've had a lot of encounters. I've been false charged by elephants at 15, 20 yards. I got charged by a brown bear in Cold Bay, Alaska. Walked up on leopards eating springbuck, which I actually have right here. That's the springbuck that I found.
That's awesome.
So that was a cool story. But charged by a hippo when we were hunting him in Africa. So just like some crazy
And
stories.
I've heard hippos are dangerous, man. I mean, I hear they're crazy.
They scare me more than most things in Africa. People are like, what about lions? I've photographed lions at 15 yards away, just on foot with a camera, out of vehicles, and never really felt scared. I mean, they're still a terrifying animal, but the hippo just, oh, I hate those things. They're so scary.
Yes.
They're a really majestic, cool animal, and they actually taste amazing. It's one of my favorite meats, to be honest with you, but gosh, they are scary. I still, to this day, I have a video on my phone of a hippo that, this one didn't charge us because it was a young hippo, but it ran right by us, and I'm just filming on my phone, and this still is on my phone today, just like a random video that I need to post. We were baboon hunting, and we shot one, and we went to walk up on it to investigate it, and I'm like filming panoramic, like, hey, let's look what's around, this is cool. And then a few minutes later, a hippo just runs right by us about 20 yards, and we're just like, oh my gosh, you can hear the guys in the back like yelling and running, and we had nowhere to go. But I never noticed that I filmed that hippo way before it charged us. Because when I got home, I'm scrolling through the videos, and there's this part where like I froze it, where I'm panning. I'm like, what's that? And you zoom in, it's a hippo just staring at me. At like 30 yards, it's just looking at us. And I'm like, I had no idea it was there. How do you miss a 3,000-pound animal just staring at you? But we missed it. But the fact that I saw that video, I'm like,
And you said hippos taste good as well. I didn't know that.
yeah. I never would have guessed it. I figured it would have been a really fatty, kind of just disgusting animal to eat, but they're actually not that fat. They're like pure muscle. And it was one of my favorite meats. Zebra and hippo were two amazing, amazing meats. And after those hunts, we donated, like, I couldn't even tell you how many thousands of pounds of meat to the local tribes. And people were so happy. And that was a really cool feeling because we're not able to bring that meat home, obviously. Even though we spent 30 days in Africa, we were able to feed off that meat for a long, long time. But when we leave, we can't bring it with us. So we donated all the meat that we harvested. So that was really cool. And it was gone in seconds. I mean, that whole hippo was gone.
Oh, I bet.
But, oh, so
bet.
good.
Yeah, well, I can't wait to. We're gonna definitely plan some hunts together, but we're definitely going to go to Africa together. I've got two boys that have been wanting to go, and we definitely need to put that on the books, Jesse. I know hunting season is about to start for you. Where are you headed on your first hunting trip?
In about 5 days on Monday, today is what, Wednesday, I am headed to the Upper Peninsula to our bear camp to do a bear hunt. So I'm going to be sitting up my Elevate tree stand. I'm going to be shooting my Matthews bow at it and hopefully getting a nice big bear, which will be the first bear I've ever harvested at our own bear camp. It's a deer camp, but about every 3-4 years, one of the family members draws a tag. So we kind of start prepping it, preparing it. So I've never gotten one there. It'll be really cool that it's at our own family camp. So really excited about that one.
And you're shooting a Matthews bow, huh?
Yep, the Phase 4. I wanted to upgrade, but I usually upgrade every 2 years because they don't change that much within 2 years. But I'm going to pre-order the new one here soon because I'm excited to see what they do.
Yeah, I shoot a Matthews as well. So does my son. It's been good to us. And, you know, Jesse, I tell you, you are definitely truly an inspiration for the audience that's listening. You know, one of the things that I'll tell them is, you know, your story is phenomenal, not only because of the success you've had, but again, the training, the preparation, the not being afraid to take risk and say, this is the way I want to live my life. And you're living that life, man. I cannot wait to continue to watch you and to follow you. You know, any advice that you would want to give someone that's maybe listening to the audience that maybe don't understand the outdoors and the joy that it can bring, or maybe someone that is thinking, man, I don't know if I need to take a risk in my life, but should I stay at this 9 to 5 job and do something just to make a check? How would you inspire them to go out, get out of your comfort zone, put the work in, and go live a good quality of life and do what you love to do?
I say the only really good way to be successful at anything, you really have to enjoy it. If it's something you're
Yeah.
not going to enjoy or doesn't make you feel good, you're never going to have the ambition, you're never going to have the motivation to really work that hard at it. So if I was doing something like, let's say, accounting, and I was the best accountant in this state, I don't think that would ever happen with the lack of care I have for that stuff. Like, let's another example, like a doctor. I don't care to be a doctor. It would be a cool profession, but it's not anything I love. It's not anything I'm interested in. So I think to really be good at something and to succeed at it, you have to love what you do. And I love hunting. I love creating. And that's why I'm able to accomplish the things I do and have the motivation, the discipline to do it because I love to do it. If you don't, you're
Yeah.
going to slack off. You're not going to work as hard. You're going to feel like it's a 9 to 5 and it's going to feel like you're working your life away. I don't think there's any secret trick to be successful or to accomplish the things you want other than just keep at it. Nothing that you're going to want to accomplish is going to happen quickly overnight. You know, some people that might not know me might think I just made a logo for my company and over a few weeks started this thing. But I mean, it took 6 years now to get to a place where I feel comfortable and still I'm not anywhere where I want to be, but it's going to take time and you just have to stick to it. There's no quick way. It's going to be a marathon. You have to keep at it. And no matter what it is, whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish, you just have to keep going at it, keep going at it. If you fail, just keep going at it. Eventually something's going to happen. If you quit, it's never going to happen.
Yeah.
There's so many quotes that are talking about that. Like there's a quote, I don't even remember who said it. Maybe I even made it up a long time ago, but like failing does not make you a failure, but quitting does. I mean, you can
Yeah.
fail as many times as you want at something. It's just going to make you learn and experience and get better at it. I failed so many times, and I still do at everything I do daily. But it teaches me so the next time I get better, then people are like, "Oh man, how did you do that? How did you get so good at that?" I'm like, "Because I failed at it so many times."
Yep.
It's a process. It's a marathon. You're going to have to keep just at it. Just keep at it, no matter what it is. I wouldn't say that's really inspiration, but that's just something that you're going to have to do. It's kind of sucks to think about like, oh, you're going to keep failing, but that's part of it. It's basically you have to fail to succeed. You're going to learn. So there's no secret trick. There's no easy button. It's just keep at it until it finally happens.
Yeah, find your passion and chase it, basically, is what you're saying from Jesse Anderson. Jesse, how's the best way for people to follow you and your content? You know, like I told you before, I have enjoyed watching your content, your creations that you have put together, and I want the audience to follow you, support you in your adventures.
Yeah, for sure. You guys can follow us at Grizz Media or Grizz Hunt. Grizz Media is the marketing agency. Grizz Hunt's kind of just our communications between our team and all the hunting that we do, all of our side projects that we do. We also have a YouTube, we have TikTok, we have podcasts, all at Grizz Hunt. And then you can find me personally at the Grizzman on social media. And yeah, that's just about it.
Awesome. Well, you heard it from Jesse Anderson. Find your passion and chase it, guys. Out of Michigan, support him and his channels on Instagram and what he is doing. Don't forget to train and prepare regardless of what you're trying to accomplish. And Jesse, thank you for being on today. I cannot wait to watch the harvest of a new bear here in the next week or so, and continue doing what you're doing, man. I cannot wait to watch your brand continue to grow, and cannot wait to see what you do as far as the impact on others and letting them know that all they need to do is find their passion and chase it. Thank you for joining us today. Guys, don't forget to pass this podcast along to your friends and family. Give us a review, and thank you for supporting the Hard Truth Podcast.